Have you ever noticed that right after you commit to a major life change, everything suddenly goes quiet? You've done the visualizations, you've set the intentions, and you felt the initial spark of excitement. But then, a few days or weeks later, a strange silence settles in. No signs, no movement, and a sudden heavy feeling of being stuck or disconnected. You look around and see the same walls, the same routine, and the same reflection in the mirror. This is the moment where most people give up. They assume the universe has ignored them, or that they simply don't have the gift of manifestation. But what if I told you that this specific silence is the most important part of the process? Most people interpret this silence as failure. They think they've lost their alignment, or that the energy has dissipated. But what I'm going to reveal to you today is the exact opposite. This silence is not a sign that nothing is happening. It is the technical signal that your reality is in the middle of a quantum collapse. Your old timeline has already dissolved, but your new one hasn't fully stabilized yet. It is a period of reorganization that requires your absolute stillness. If you understand the mechanics of this silent threshold, you will stop resetting your own miracles seconds before they manifest. Stay with me, because we are going to dive deep into the neurobiology of the void and why your brain is currently screaming at you to sabotage the very thing you've been praying for. We need to understand that we are biological and energetic systems, and when we move from one state of being to another, there is a literal rewiring process that feels uncomfortable to the conscious mind. When you decide to shift your reality, you aren't just changing your thoughts. You are attempting to reconfigure your entire nervous system. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its primary job is not to make you happy, rich, or enlightened. Its job is to keep you safe by making the future predictable, based on the past. For your brain, safe is synonymous with familiar. Even if your current reality is painful, toxic, or lacking, it is predictable, and therefore, your brain considers it safe. It knows how to survive in your current struggle, but it doesn't yet know how to survive in your new success. The moment you enter the phase right before a reality shift, your brain experiences what we call a prediction error. The old internal model of who you are no longer applies, but the new version of you hasn't provided enough data yet for the brain to map out the future. This creates a data gap. This gap triggers the survival centers of the brain. The amygdala, responsible for the fight or flight response, begins to fire because it senses an unknown. In the eyes of your primitive brain, the unknown is a threat. In this gap, your nervous system enters a state of high-frequency beta. Beta is the state of evaluation, correction, and vigilance. It is the brain's way of saying, I don't know what's coming next, so I need to be on high alert. This is why you feel that sudden urge to overthink, to check your bank account 5 times a day, or to ask yourself if you're doing the technique wrong. You might feel restless, anxious, or even physically exhausted. This isn't intuition. This isn't a warning from your higher self. It is your nervous system attempting to reassert control at the very moment control is no longer required. In quantum physics, there is a phenomenon known as the observer effect. It proves that the act of measurement, the act of watching, alters the outcome of an experiment. If you are constantly measuring your life, looking for signs, checking for results, reacting emotionally to the lack of movement, you are keeping the quantum system in a state of flux. You are introducing noise into the field. By looking for where it is, you are fundamentally confirming where it isn't. You are reinforcing the state of not having it every time you look for it with anxiety. Think of a reality shift like a massive software update for your life. When your computer is at 99%, the screen often goes black. There is no progress bar, no sound, just a dark screen. This is the void. If you panic and start pressing buttons or pull the plug because you think it's stuck, you crash the update. You have to go back to the beginning and restart the entire download. This is what happens when you react to the silence with fear. You pull the plug on your own manifestation. The mind reacts most strongly when it senses a loss of control. Not necessarily when something is going wrong. It panics in transition. This is the part nobody teaches you. The silence of reality isn't a wall. It's a bridge. But the mind hates the bridge because it can't see the other side yet. It will try to convince you that you are being irresponsible for being still. It will whisper that you should do something, just to feel like you're still in charge. It wants you to go back to the old struggle because at least the old struggle is a known quantity. To successfully cross this bridge, you must understand that your senses are the last to know. Your physical reality is like the light from a distant star. What you see now is actually a reflection of who you were weeks or months ago. If you use your current physical circumstances to decide if your manifestation is working, you're looking at the past to predict the future. This is the ultimate trap. The quantum shift happens first in the unseen, then in the nervous system, and only finally in the physical world. Part 2. Stabilization and the art of non-reaction. As we move deeper into this transition, the mind becomes more sophisticated in its sabotage. It won't always scream at you with fear. Often, it reacts politely. It disguises interference as intelligence, logic, or responsibility. You'll have thoughts like, maybe I just need to tweak my manifestation script one more time. Or, I should probably look for a backup plan just in case. Or, maybe I should try a different teacher or a new technique. These thoughts feel very reasonable. They feel like you are taking inspired action. But in reality, these thoughts are micro-interruptions. They are anchors to the old pattern of seeking. Yeah. Every time you react to the void with a micro-adjustment, you are telling the quantum field that you don't trust the process. You are signaling lack. And as long as you broadcast the signal of waiting or searching, reality responds by keeping you in a state of waiting and searching. The field can only reflect back to you the frequency you are emitting. If you are emitting the frequency of, I need to fix this, the field will continue to give you things that need fixing. Right before something aligns externally, your internal system enters a quiet threshold state. It's not excited, it's not fearful, it's just still. This is often called the zero-point field. To a mind used to constant effort, adrenaline, and struggle, this stillness feels alien. We have been conditioned by society to believe that if we aren't doing, we aren't achieving. We feel guilty if we aren't working hard or worrying. We have become addicted to the cortisol of the hustle. But real manifestation does not happen in excitement or exhaustive visualization. Excitement often carries an underlying energy of, I can't believe this is happening, which still implies that it's a surprise or an anomaly. Real manifestation happens in the state of naturalness. It happens in the absence of internal contradiction. It happens when your identity is already ahead of your circumstances to the point where having your desire feels as normal as breathing. At this stage, your future configuration is already influencing your present. What is missing is not more effort, it is restraint. How do you navigate this gap without resetting the miracle? You practice the art of the regulated observer. When the urge to react, to doubt, or to fix arises, you must recognize it as a neurological reflex, not a spiritual truth. It is just your old identity trying to survive. You acknowledge the sensation in your body, the tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts, the urge to check your phone, and you simply let them be there without giving them a label. Don't call it anxiety, don't call it doubt, just call it energy. When a quantum shift is near, you will feel briefly disoriented. It might feel like a brain fog or a sense of being between worlds. That disorientation is the literal gap between timelines. It is the moment where the old atoms of your previous reality are rearranging themselves. If you don't anchor yourself back into the old pattern through a familiar reaction, the system reorganizes on its own. It stabilizes into the new form. This is why people often report that their biggest breakthroughs happened exactly when they gave up or stopped watching for them. It wasn't because they stopped wanting it. It was because they finally stopped interrupting it with their old personality. There is a law in nature called the law of least effort. It states that nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease, with carefreeness, harmony, and love. When we learn this lesson from nature, we easily create our desires. A seed doesn't struggle to become a tree. It simply unfolds when the conditions are met. Your manifestation is the same. The conditions are not your hard work. The conditions are your energetic consistency. If you oscillate between believing and doubting every 5 minutes, the field cannot commit to a collapse of the wave function because the observer is unstable. Real change doesn't arrive as a bombastic, loud event. It arrives as a stabilization where nothing inside you is arguing with life anymore. You reach a point where you no longer need to convince yourself it's working, because you've stopped measuring it against the past. You become the person who already has it, and that person isn't looking for signs because they are the sign. This is the transition from seeking to being. If you have been feeling this strange calm lately, this void where nothing feels urgent anymore, or even a sense of boredom, congratulations. You are exactly on time. You are in the final stage of integration. The boredom is actually your nervous system healing from its addiction to the stress of not having your desires. To signal to your nervous system that you recognize this moment and that you are choosing trust over interference, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, realize that the version of you who has everything you want isn't stressed right now. That version of you is at peace. To anchor this awareness and tell your brain to step down from its high alert state, I want you to engage with this community of intentional creators. Write in the comments, "I let it settle." This isn't a declaration to convince the universe. The universe already heard you the first time. This is a signal to your own brain that you are stepping out of the beta state of vigilance and into the state of alpha-theta integration. You are choosing not to interrupt the quantum collapse. You are giving the update permission to finish. If you find yourself struggling to maintain this stable observer state, and you feel the pull of your old struggle loops dragging you back, I've put together a resource for you. Check out our Quantum Rebirth Guide in the first pinned comment. It was designed specifically to help you dissolve those micro-interruptions and regulate your nervous system so you can stay in the 0 point long enough for your reality to stabilize. Your reality no longer needs to teach you the same lesson of struggle, lack, and effort. You have already passed that level. It is ready to move forward with you into a life of ease and synchronicity. The question is, are you ready to be still enough to let it? Are you brave enough to trust the silence? Thank you for expanding your mind with us today. We'll see you in the next shift.